I haven't looked at all the ones that they've overturned. I know the Senate passed some and the House passed some. They flipped over. I don't know which chamber's taken those up yet. But of course, you can read my veto messages. Besides the ones that we were vetoing because, and my veto message was clear, like, listen, we need to get tax cuts done for Oklahomans, and we need school choice done. So there's some that I was okay with, but there's some that is just really, really bad policy. And again, I'm going to advocate for Oklahomans. My job is as the governor of all 4 million Oklahomans is to, not go along to get along and to think about what's best for the state. So I'm going to advocate in every school district and every county and let them know if there's bad policy and legislators are overriding it, Oklahomans need to know what that is.
Education and tax reform were your two biggest priorities, or two of your biggest priorities for this legislative session. Education did great, but tax reform fell short. What do you think that is, and do you expect it to be a priority for you next legislative session?
Yeah, I want Oklahomans to hear from me. I mean, last year I advocated for a tax cut. I called them in for special session and advocated for a tax cut. All the House passed those tax cuts. The Senate has not taken it up. I'm asking the Senate to hear those tax cuts, put them up on the floor for a vote. I'm considering calling people back for another special session to get a tax cut done. When you think about it, if we have $6 billion in savings and we have $1.2 billion in excess revenue above expenses, you shouldn't just spend all that money. You should give some of that back to the taxpayer. And so the fact that we weren't able to get that done, to me, is just unbelievable. And I wanted to let you know, we're getting further and farther behind. Pennsylvania, their tax rate is 3.07%. Michigan, these are Democratic states. Michigan, their tax rate is 4.25%. North Carolina is what ours is, 4.75, but they've got a plan right now by 2027 to go to 3.99%. That's North Carolina. Iowa is going to 3.9%. Louisiana currently is 4.25%. That doesn't include all the states that are already at 0%. South Dakota's at 0, Nevada's at 0, Wyoming's at 0, North Dakota's at 2.9%. I could go on and on of how we're getting further and further behind. I want Oklahoma to be the most business-friendly state in the country. And we need, when we have excess revenue, we need to just slowly slow the growth of government and not spend every dime that we have in revenue. And remember, when we do a tax cut and we put money back in Oklahomans' pockets, it's not like it disappears. All we're saying is they know how to spend their money better than the government. And then they're going to be buying bicycles, and their sales tax goes up, and all the revenue goes up. There's more money in the system that gets spun, and that's good for our economy. So again, I'm not going to stop advocating for lower taxes when we have excess revenue to spend. I'm not going to be a governor that just wants to grow government and spend every dime that we have.
What kind of criteria are you looking at if you do call a special session? Are you considering it? What exactly are the considerations involved? What are you waiting for?
Well, we've got to wait for this session to end first, but the thing is, I'm hopeful that we would get a tax cut done, and again, I just said it. I believe in smaller government. I believe in lower taxes. I believe that's good for the economy. That's good for Oklahomans. And when the economy's booming, the reason we were able to do such a great win in education is because our economy's booming. We're top 10 in people moving to our state. We just landed the largest economic development in state history with a NEL, 1,500 more jobs. We're really close to another major project announcement. So you guys saw the new refinery going in, a $5 billion investment. All of that is working together, and that's good for education. It's good for infrastructure. So I'm just trying to keep the momentum going. I say it all the time, it's a zero-sum game. We have to balance all these priorities, but the taxpayers are a priority as well, and the economy is a huge priority. And so if we've got to keep that momentum going. And so I've got a lot of things to consider after this, after sine die, and then we'll see. I don't believe that the Senate's going to take up the tax cuts at this point, so we'll have to maybe call back in for a special session and talk about it.
Senate Pro Tem Greg Treat yesterday, last year and it didn't work. So I don't think he'll do that again. So, you know, why try, I guess, I can't think of a better metaphor, but running at the same wall in the same way.
Yeah, well, when we called them in last time, they said, well, we want to study it. Remember that? We want to study it. We want to put our plan together. And so now we've done that, and nothing got done this year. So we're going to keep the pressure up because I know Oklahomans want it. And Oklahomans, I want Oklahomans to know that I'm advocating for them. And if they want lower taxes, they're going to have to get involved and help me push their representatives to their elected officials to say, hey, I don't get to write the laws. The legislature does that. But as the governor, I get to talk about the big picture and not just one area of state government. I get to talk about the big picture of moving our state forward. And I know that this will help move our state forward.
Is there anything you liked or didn't like in the state budget?
I'm sorry?
Is there anything you liked or didn't like in the state budget that they're preparing to send to you today? Minus the tax cuts.
You know, I don't like the amount of spending that we're doing. So I'm still reviewing all of that. It looks like we're spending a lot of our savings account, and we're also raising the base level expenses above reoccurring revenue, which is something that I 100% am. I think it puts us in a harmful situation. But we'll have, once I get the final budget, we'll have probably another press conference to kind of talk about the specifics of the budget. But I've always said, here's reoccurring revenue. We've got to keep expenses below that. And if I see expenses go above that, I'm going to tell Oklahomans about it. And that's not being fiscally prudent. It's not being intellectually honest. And now we're betting on the come next year that we're going to actually grow. And I don't want to ever put Oklahomans in that situation. I've been here for 5 years now. The reason we're in a good spot is because we have been adamantly disciplined to keep expenses below revenue. And we've saved that difference. And I don't want to get into a point where we're changing that direction. So, yes, sir.
Can we get a reaction to the veto override of the OETA funding bill?
Yeah, I mean, to me, that was just, it's unbelievable that conservative Republicans would override that bill. I don't know if you saw OETA's tweet out, but they were advertising LGBTQ, you know, kind of conference or stuff. I don't remember exactly what it was. And again, if you're a private entity and that's your what you want to promote, that's great. We're all for that. But using taxpayer dollars to get into these social issues, I'm just adamantly opposed to it. And so those are the reasons I said, listen, OETA can stand alone. 14 other states don't fund public television. This is an outdated system. So it really didn't. It was more about why are we using taxpayer dollars to fund public television? We don't need to do that with streaming, with all the different things that are going. It might have made sense in 1950, but it doesn't make sense in 2023. And so then you look at the content, that doesn't line up with Oklahoma values, number one, but then to push to use taxpayer dollars to promote a certain agenda, it's just weird. It's really, really strange. That's why I did it. I was really surprised that Republicans would, that I thought would think more along the lines of, hey, smaller government, lower taxes would override that.
Governor, some of your objections to OETA included some news coverage. I mean, how is that not getting into censorship and First Amendment issues?
Well, hey, nobody's against, you can write whatever you want, right? We believe in the free press, but why do we use taxpayer dollars? This isn't state-controlled press. Do you want me controlling OETA since we're funding it and I'm going to push my agenda on OETA? Of course you don't.
Isn't that what you do by sunsetting Hulu?
100% not. All I'm saying is, why are we using taxpayer dollars to promote a television station? There's a lot of people that want taxpayer dollars to promote their private business, and let them go compete in the private sector. We believe in a free market. That is the healthiest system out there. If the programming is great, let NBC, CBS, Fox, all the different folks run that programming. It's not like they're creating content. They're just repackaging it and just pushing it out on television. And we're using taxpayer dollars to do that. And I'm just opposed to that. If Oklahomans wanted that, they would have elected my opponent to governor.
Can I ask you about the Panasonic situation? The legislature unveiled a $145 million proposal for Mid-America agreement that Panasonic's executive signed said they wanted $245 million. Legislators say they're back to where things were last year. Do you feel like 145 is enough to get the job done? Are you upset with the lawmakers that they can't do 245?
You know, the law. I'm not upset with them on that. They put their best foot forward, 145 million for to Mid-America to develop that site and get that ready. That's a big step forward. They've already qualified for the 698 million over 10 years if they bring 3,500 jobs and if they invest $5 billion. So we'll have those gates. I just want Oklahomans to know we protect all the tax dollars, and it's always net positive to the state, and if they do this, then we release those funds, okay? So that's first and foremost. Secondly, there's other infrastructure needs, there's other roads and bridges that I believe we're going to be able to land that project. I'm working with the company to get that project landed. I think Oklahoma is the right spot for them to manufacture. We have some of the most affordable, reliable energy in the country, and I think that ultimately they're going to decide to come to Oklahoma. So it's about a 15-month project to even get the site ready. Remember, this is going to be a 5 million square foot building under roof. It's just a massive project. So you're going to need infrastructure, egress, ingress. You're going to need fire station. You're going to need child care facilities. It's bringing a lot of jobs. So some of that money wasn't going to the company. It was just to make sure that infrastructure can support such a large scale company, and the vendors and the traffic and the trucks and everything kind of flowing in there. It's like building a little mini city. So that's what people don't understand. Some of it, the company understands what it's going to be on the current infrastructure with water needs and sewer needs. So some of that stuff is just going to work itself out as we develop and as we grow that part of the state. Housing needs, we're working on that as well. So I believe we're going to get it. I don't think it's a 145 versus 245 conversation. We're going to make sure that company, Oklahoma is the right spot for them, and we're able to get all the infrastructure around such a large project.
Governor, I know you touched on the Cherokee Nation chief election last week. As a citizen, have you ever voted in a tribal election before, and do you plan to vote in this one?
I have never voted in a tribal election for the Cherokees. I don't know. Hopefully I get a chance to. I'm not sure if I've got the application or what, so I'll have to get back with you on that. But the thing that's interesting about the Cherokee elections, it's my understanding, over half of the votes come from California. And people all over, that they don't have to live in Oklahoma or the Cherokee counties to vote in that election. So you've got California Cherokees that are voting in it, which is kind of weird as an Oklahoman, and all my relatives that are from Skytook and the eastern part of the state that are part of the Cherokee folks. But we look at ourselves as Oklahomans. We're Oklahomans. We're proud of our heritage. So I get a bad rap on some of the Indian stuff because I'm just so pro-Oklahoma. And as the governor of Oklahoma, I can't think about what's best for just Cherokee tribal politics. I've got to think about what's best for all of Oklahoma, and there's 39 other tribes too. A lot of people just forget and they think about the 5 big tribes, but I've got a great relationship with the Comanches and the Apaches and all the different tribes around the state. And then there's 9 tribes up in the Miami area that are so important to our state. And I think people lose the fact that these are all Oklahomans, that I'm a 4th generation that grew up here. I'm proud of my heritage. But I don't believe that you should have a whole different set of rules than every Oklahoman. And that brings me to, I really want Oklahomans to know this. The Strobel case is something everybody should be aware of. Strobel was a female American Indian, so she had her American Indian card like I do, and she lived over in the Tulsa area, fee simple house. So in other words, she just lived in a regular neighborhood in Tulsa, and she is claiming that she doesn't have to pay state income tax. And so now that's before the state Supreme Court, okay? It's before the state Supreme Court. But here's what's interesting. All 5 tribes have sent a letter to the court. It's called a amicus brief. And they've advocated and said, yeah, we agree with Strobel that she doesn't have to pay taxes in Oklahoma. Well, that's weird to me. That's weird to Oklahomans that you're going to have one person or one group of people based on your race that you don't pay taxes, but every other race has to pay taxes, that's weird. And we're not going to be, I'm fighting for Oklahoma and to make us a top 10 state. We can't be a top 10 state if you have a whole group of people that don't play by the same rules that everybody else does. Oklahomans need to understand that. That's a really, really important case that right now is before the state Supreme Court.
Last question.
In the last couple of days, we've seen some emails get sent out to Department of Education employees, basically threatening them, saying if you guys speak to the media or share information with the media, you're going to be terminated. Is this behavior that you condone?
That's the first I've ever heard of that. Here's the deal. You'll have to ask the education. I don't even know who sent that email or what it is. If you're implying it's coming from me, that doesn't come from me. That comes from, if it comes from somebody, you'll have to ask them. But I don't know the specifics or anything around that.
Can I ask, other than tax cuts, what do you think the legislature left undone this year?
Not a lot. We got most of our priorities done. Really proud of some of the policy we did, especially around education. I think that was historic, like we talked about. We got the marriage penalty eliminated. We got the franchise tax reduced, which is great. So there was some tax reform in there, but we didn't give a quarter of a point back to the people, which is really what I was fighting for. With inflation and everything costing more, I really wanted to get that done for Oklahoma. And so I'm disappointed in myself that I could not advocate for Oklahomans and get that done. So that's why I'm going to continue to fight for that. And I'm also going to continue to try to hold the growth of government so we don't get ourselves in a bad situation in 2, 3, 4 years from now. We can't spend our savings account, and we cannot raise expenses above revenue and just hope that we keep growing revenue on that side. That's a bad situation. Nobody in their family's budget, if you make this amount of money every year, you bet on that raise next year and you raise your expenses, your monthly expenses above what you bring in. It doesn't make sense. You're not going to live on credit cards, and we shouldn't do the same thing in government. We should always spend less than we bring in. Thank you guys so much.